Hello students, let's read the problem. And it says that triangles ABC and FGH are similar. What is the value of x? So what I'm looking for is the value for x, right? Now there's something very important at the beginning that compares the triangles, right? And it says that they are similar. So I'm not sure if you remember back in 7th grade, when we talk about similar figures, it means that they are in proportion, right? So what does that really mean? Well, it means that if they're in proportion, there is a relationship between AC and FH, right? And there's also a relationship between AB and FG. So I can actually set up my problem as a proportion. Let me write it down over here. Let's see if you remember how to set up proportions. Okay, so back in 7th grade, the way you guys set up proportion was you make a comparison of the sides of your shapes, right? So I'm gonna compare AC over FH and AB over FG. Is that right? So it's up to you if you want to write down the labels, right? But if I want to write down labels, I'll say AC is to AB as FH is to FG. And of course, there's a lot of ways that you guys can set up a proportion. This is just one of them, right? So what I'm going to do next is we're actually going to go and replace values here, right? Okay, so let's replace some values. So for example, AC, it's represented with the expression of 4x minus 2. So it goes on my numerator. AB, it's 2x plus 4. So I'm going to write it down as the denominator. On the other side of the equation, FH is represented with 7.2. And FG is represented with 5.6. So now I set up my proportion, right? So the next thing that I do, let's see if you remember the way we do proportions. One of the ways that we do is we actually do cross multiplication. Do you remember that? It is, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply. So what does that mean? Well, it basically means that I am going to multiply 7.2 times my expression 2x plus 4. And on the other side, I'm going to multiply 5.6 times the expression 4x minus 2. Okay, so now that I know who am I going to multiply, let's see if you remember we need to do distributive property, right? We're going to multiply 7.2 times everything inside. And on the right, I'm also going to need to multiply 5.6 times everything that is on the inside of the parentheses. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply. 7.2 times 2x gives me 14.4x, right? So let's write it down. So I'm going to have 14.4x plus 7.2 times 4 gives me 28.8. On the right, multiply 5.6 times 4, I get 22.4x minus 5.6 times 2 is 11.2. Okay, so notice how I got variables on both sides, right? Notice how I got this many x's on one side, this many x's on the other side. So it's up to you. What do you want to do next? So what I'm going to do, I am going to eliminate the smallest one with the variable, right? Which is 14.4. So I am going to subtract 14.4x on both sides. Remember, whatever you do on one side, you do it to the other side. Okay, so 14.4x minus 14.4x is canceled. It becomes a 0, right? So what is left? Well, I have 28.8. And on the other side, 22.4x minus 14.4x gives me 8x minus 11.2. So notice how my x is on the right, but there's no more x's on the left, which is good, right? So what I need to do next, I need to eliminate the constant 11.2, which is being subtracted. And the opposite of subtracting is adding 11.2 on both sides. Okay, so what's going to happen here? Well, my 11.2 on the right and my minus 11.2 cancels, and 28.8 plus 11.2 gives me a 40 equals 8x. So I still have a coefficient for x, which is 8, and 8 it's multiplying the x, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing. Therefore, I'm going to divide by 8. Okay? And 8 divided by 8 is 1, which means x by itself. And 40 divided by 8 gives me a 5. So my answer is x equals 5. Okay? Now, what we done before is we actually have gone back and checked the word. And we can do that. I know it looks like a long problem, but it doesn't hurt to check. And the way that we're going to check, remember, is by replacing x with a positive 5. So I'm going to start with one of the equations that I had here, just to make sure that I'm not going to get confused. So I'm going to write down not the multiplication, but just how I set it up when I multiply 5.6 times each one of them, okay? So I'm going to multiply 7.2, and I'm going to write down like a bracket this time. And I am going to write down 2 parentheses and then the x, which is 5, plus 4, and I'm going to close the bracket, okay? Okay, so the reason why I wrote a bracket instead of a parenthesis was because I was going to have another parenthesis inside. So we want to make sure that we don't get confused, okay? But now I can put a parenthesis because I'm already going to get rid of the parenthesis inside, because I'm going to multiply 2 times 5, it's 10 plus the 4, right? And this will be 7.2 times 14, and I get 100.80. So what I'm hoping now is that when I work out the second part of the problem, which starts with 5.6, bracket 4 parentheses minus 2, and close the bracket, inside the parentheses I am going to write down the value for x, which is 5. So I'm going to work it out. Now I can put a parenthesis because 4 times 5 is 20 minus 2, and 5.6 will multiply the 18. And if you multiply those two, you get 100.8 or 80. And what do I notice about this? I get exactly the same answer on both sides. So that confirms that my answer for this, for the value for x, should be x equals to a 5.